rest of the creation word here, and we looked at the C for choice, which is we have to choose health. Everything starts with making a choice, and we do have choices. We may not like our choices at all times, but we do have them. And so I choose health and well-being, and then I begin to make changes going that direction. And we don't want to wait until we're told by the medical profession that we need to do so. We want to start beforehand. So prevention versus intervention. And I like to tell my teen clients, start now so that by the time you're where I am, you're healthy and vibrant and can continue to live life fully. Good genes are helpful in all of this story, as we know, right? So I'm thankful for that. Who knew, being adopted? But thanks, Yvette. The R is for rest, and we talked about all kinds of rest, predominantly sleep and how that's critical to our well-being. Everything needs to have a break. The brain, the body, all of that. But we talked as well about different kinds of rest, right? That we need breaks. We need meditative times, contemplative times. We need vacations. Coming back from Spain and knowing that they take 6 weeks vacation and that we struggle taking 5 days with the pileup of work that will get at the other end, you see that the only thing that keeps their mortality rate higher than us is probably that they continue to smoke. But they walk, they eat cleaner, and anyway. So resting, mini breaks, mindfulness breaks, all of those kinds of things. And we talked about the environment, how I can create an environment around me. Elise has a packet for you. MC, welcome. She's in the, or maybe we put it there. That I create my environment as best I can. I can't necessarily control where I live at all times. I may need to be somewhere where if I have a spouse, they're working. Or I may, that may be out of my control. But what is in my control is the sensory items that I place in my environment. So that visually, the environment I live in is appealing, right? That there are tactile things, auditory things that bring me either relaxation and rest or joy. So my office, for example, the diffuser is not for the clients. It's actually for me. I need the lavender. If I have background music, that's also for me. It's all about me in my office. Because I'm going to be there for 10 hours and someone's coming in for a shorter period of time.
Who's the chocolate for?
That would also be for me. Dark chocolate. Activity, the A. Movement is medicine. And again, we can talk a lot about that. I have to say that when I got back from walking about 10 miles a day, and on Monday, I said, well, why am I driving 0.7 miles to get a mani-pedi that I desperately, by the way, needed? I'm just going to walk. And then we had a huge thunderstorm. And I thought, oh, dang. But I thought, I can do 0.7 in 25 minutes. So I'm just going to keep walking places. And it's easy how quickly we can revert back to other patterns when we don't maintain one, is it not? So I am now out of the walking daily routine because my routine got ruptured by traveling and working and all the things about not liking to get up early and do that thing. Like some of my clients are up at 5. I do my walk, then I do my devotional, then I get to work by 7:30. We're going to talk about this. We're going to do some trauma work on you. The T was for trust and trust in my higher power, for meaning and purpose. And again, a ton of research about no higher power and the depression and anxiety levels just skyrocketing. Then we talked last time as well about interpersonal relationships and how those connections are critical to our well-being. Disconnected, we don't function. Connected, we do. This is a neurological thing, it's a physiological thing, it's a emotional thing, it's a physical thing. We need others to even know who we are. I've talked a lot about how we're born looking for a face, looking for connection. And when we're disaffiliated, mental illness happens. So we need to know where we fit and know who we are. And we also need to embrace our entire story, even though that might be hard at times. All right, so today we're talking about outlook. And so a couple of quotes here first. St. Francis of Assisi says, if you don't have everything you want, then choose to be thankful for the things you don't have that you don't want. And then a quote here, don't allow stress to destroy your life. Stress is an expression of fear, and fear and faith are exact opposites, and you cannot operate in both at the same time. We've talked a lot about how I cannot hold fear and anger in my brain at the same time as gratitude and joy. They cannot coexist. So when I choose that pathway to alter my pathway and to choose gratitude, to choose joy, to choose to find what is good about this situation. One of the things that happened when this happened was I was in pain. I also did not like that it happened. It encumbered the rest of my miles and my trip, as I was needing to bandage and find medication with pharmacies being closed and all of those things. I found myself being so grateful for a friend with me who could tell me, it looks better today, even though she made a face while she was saying it. And I knew she was partially lying. But how much do we need someone to tell us, you're doing better? Before you remember how it was, it's not like that now. We sometimes need others to remind us that we've come a distance, that we aren't as depressed, as long, or as deep as we were before, and that we aren't losing weight, or that we are, whatever the case might be. We do need that. And then this quote: discouragement, I love this one, is the devil's anesthesia when he wants to take our heart out. So depression, anxiety, and anger are three, we call them negative emotional states because we see them as negative states. They actually, as we've talked a lot about feelings and looked at the feelings chart, and hopefully you have your feelings chart on your fridge or in your bedroom, in your car, on your phone somewhere, to know that they're all important, helpful emotions to move us. Not for us to stay stuck in them, but rather to use them as signals that there's something that needs to be addressed. And so I just put negative in parentheses. By the way, speaking of parentheses, I had really bad news from my accountant about my tax debt this year. Really bad news. Like, I went into a hyper-aroused state of stress until she told me 2 weeks later, dealing with the stress of this big number, that oops, she put the parentheses in the wrong place on the fourth line down on. Oh my God. And when she realized that, it changed the entire story. Well, I didn't change it completely. It's still not pretty, but it's prettier. Yes. Yes.
The great exhale.
No, and the beautiful part about that was, my son had just called as I'm sitting there going, how am I going to ever do this? I cannot meet with 35, 40 clients a week. I don't know how I can do this. My husband can't work. He has to have surgery. All these things are happening. And my son called and said, Mom, how are you? And I went, I'm not good at all. And I normally don't do that with my kids. Right, Lee? And he said, well, Mom, connect back with your joy. Just connect with your joy. Because God's going to handle this. You know that. He handled me. Look at me, I'm alive, I got a job, I've got a family. I hung up, and I am seriously telling you, about 5 minutes later, a text came in from the accountant saying, call me, I have some embarrassing and good news. And I thought, well, this has to be that she made a mistake, and it has to be that the number's better. And I called my son right away and said, Ryan, God is so on time, all the time. And so into the details of our life. I am so just unbelievably thrilled and relieved. And thank you for reminding me. Because I think what God wants us to do is bypass the stress piece and go to the joy piece even before it's there. Even before we see the reason, even before we see the evidence. All right, be thankful in all things because I'm working. So fake it till you make it. And we're human, right? And so we have very real things that come up and happen, and destroy that peace or come in to try to deviate us from that jump to joy. But I jump to joy, which is what? I was jumping for joy. All right, so anyway, depression, anxiety, and anger. And when they're activated and not managed, these lead to health issues. We've talked about this kind of a lot. So, but in an article in Newsweek in 2003, actually, prolonged stress caused by depression, anxiety, and fear has psychological consequences. No doubt, we know this. But a study conducted on heart patients after 9/11 in New York City found heart patients to suffer twice the usual rate of life-threatening heart complications in the months that followed that attack. We're not surprised by this, right? Fear affects us biologically, so people who are anxious drink more, eat poorly, practice less self-care, have more accidents, and are more likely to suffer from sickness and chronic illness because there is overactivation of our organs when they don't need to be overactive, because that stress response, that amygdala being ignited, it informs my body. You need to be prepared for danger. I just learned an incredible adjunct to trauma treatment that I do, which is brain spotting level 2. And it is phenomenal. To bypass the neocortex, which is the thinking part of the brain, and get immediately into the subcortical regions of the brain where the trauma is stored. So without words, by finding that ocular spot and connecting, the brain will connect it with a memory or an incident or a fear. And I immediately began using this as soon as I finished the training, even though I'm learning still. It's a very forgiving practice, and I have found it to be highly effective in eradicating trauma. So brain spotting, if any of your therapists advise that for you or do that for you, or you want to do that, let me know and I will hook you up. Positive outlook accelerates activity in the prefrontal lobe, better focus, communication, all the things that this part of our brain does, right? Decision making, mood regulation. This part is responsible for regulating this. So it can inform this, hey, thank you, I know you're trying to help, but I'm not needed. This thing is not a bear. I'm not in danger. I know how to manage this now. By the way, back to brain spotting for a minute. A piece of research I was looking at showed that 6 months post-therapy, using only cognitive behavioral therapy, there was a drop in performance and mood. There was an increase with brain spotting, and it was holding even with EMDR. So it's outperforming EMDR, but it's newer, so we're lacking a lot of the evidence-based data to show that so far, only because it's newer. Super impressed with that. Positive thoughts improve immunity, accelerate healing. All right, and again, I gotta fake it till I make it, like Marla said, or borrow it until I have it myself. With this, I borrowed it from Chachi. It's looking better. You're going to be okay. How often have you needed to hear from outside, it's better, you're going to be okay? When a doctor tells us, I've done this, when my doctor said for cataract, I do 700 of these a year and I've done it for 20 years. I'm like, oh, I do not want to hear, you'll be my first one. Mm-hmm. Right? So we need those kinds of reinforcers externally. Positive growth mindset leads to enhanced mental state, protects physical health as well. Negative fixed mindset leads to depression and anxiety and threatens physical health. Right? So we said the difference between growth and fixed mindset is a growth mindset person will see a problem as an opportunity. Will see a problem as a challenge, something to be solved. A fixed mindset person will see a problem as a threat, and it will shut down this, versus the growth mindset person keeps this online. All right, so notice your thinking. Notice the thinking and the words that people in your life use when a problem arises. Oh, let's see what we can do about that. Growth mindset. I don't know what we should do. Maybe this mindset, right? We want to surround ourselves with more people that stay online. Pessimism triggers changes in the immune system, as I said before, because of the polyvagal system and the neural fear centers, right? And in one study on HIV patients, it showed that there was a decrease in T cell count with pessimistic versus optimistic mindset people. Not a word. And depression's been linked to all kinds of problems, all kinds of issues. And you can take a look at that right there. Look at this research that was a longitudinal study by Kaiser. Depressed people utilizing healthcare services 5 times the norm. So, helpless victim or optimistic overcomer, choose optimism. This quote says that we all procrastinate at one time or another, but the most unfortunate, don't you just love it that I'm imperfect? Who noticed that word? Who didn't? Do you know that we sometimes bypass errors because we assume that it says the correct thing? Unless we're an editor. MJ never misses anything. Anyway, the most unfortunate procrastination of all is to put off deciding to be happy. I think the other procrastination would be deciding to wait until something happens and I will be happy then, when, instead of I am now, in the midst of, despite. All right, and a cheerful heart is good medicine, we know this. Optimism is one of the 7 happiness habits, and it leads to changes in the brain chemistry and in neural activity. It creates that snag that we often talk about, synaptic neural activation and growth, that my brain can actually learn to go a different direction, to move a different direction. People come in all the time and say, so I've been hearing this thing from in my family all my life. You're slow, you're fat, you're whatever you are. So repetition, right, can cause me to believe this thing is true. So it might take repetition to change and go a new direction, because my automatic go-to will be anything related to that messaging automatically takes me that way, along those neural pathways. If I want to create new neural pathways, I need to begin to think differently, speak differently, and act differently. And again, being around others who will help support that will just help that snag happen more quickly. And I love your hair.
Me?
Yes, you.
It's a process. I'm doing it on my own.
Hey, everything's a process. Hey, cheers, everybody.
Cheers.
Yes, we forgot our cheers. All right. So what if you're a fixed mindset person and you kind of know this about yourself? Yeah, I do tend to see that there's not much left in my cup. And there wasn't much to begin with. That might even be an add-on to my negativity. And also, I had to share with Leisha, so what if I run out? Right? You hear all of that? Even watch your language when you're using double negatives. Don't forget to. I'm going to remember to. Different things happen in the brain when I use negative words, double negatives versus positives. I'll be there. I don't know if I'll be able to make it. I'll try to be there. I'm looking forward to being there. I have to check my schedule, right? Different things are happening. So learned helplessness, I can get to learned optimism. One of the best books on this is by Martin Seligman, who is the father of positive psychology. And here's a quote. During the course of life, we can all develop something called learned helplessness. That is the thought that there's nothing that can be done to improve this situation. Little I can do to improve my circumstance. While we can't change other people and other circumstances, we can take control over ourselves and take small steps toward transforming outlook, health, and wellness. And that's in his book, Learned Optimism. His other book, Authentic Happiness, is amazing. And you remember that website for him is phenomenal with a ton of resources. And it's Authentic Happiness.org. And that's all of the positive psychology stuff. Tons and tons of resources on thankfulness, gratitude, optimism. I'm trying to think what else. All of the other information on the happiness habits are wellness habits, they call them in positive psychology. I just changed it. Okay. Where am I? Viktor Frankl. Again, if you haven't read Man's Search for Meaning, it is a must read. You remember that he was in the concentration camp? Everyone he loved was killed. And he decided that the only thing I can control here is how I perceive this situation and what good I can choose to do, even when everything's taken from me. And he says, I have very little liberty from a physical standpoint, but I had all the freedom in the world to intellectually frame the experiences that came into my life. We who lived in concentration camps can remember the men who walked through the huts comforting others, giving away their last piece of bread. They may have been few in number, but they offered sufficient evidence that everything can be taken from a man but one thing: the last of human freedoms, to choose one's attitude in any given circumstance and to choose one's own way. If he can choose that in that kind of setting, far be it from us to not be able to work on that. Is this easy? No. This is not easy. This is hard, right? We look at circumstances. We also do the C word, comparison. Well, she has everything just handed to her on a silver platter. Well, how come she doesn't have any problems? How come that family is? Why did I have 4 miscarriages? How come I can't get pregnant? When am I going to get, right? And we do this comparison thing where when we're different, and maybe a lot different from the norm, enter pessimism, enter negativism, enter fixed mindset. We have to remember that we're unique and that our story is our story and no one else can have it. And that's a different way to reframe hardship and difficulty. And I remember one of my pastor's wife's wives saying to me years ago, I think you're still trying to accept the parts of your story that you don't like. And once you accept those as part of the story, but not the whole story, and not defining you, and know that God needed to get you here somehow, despite the avenue he took to do that, I think that things will be better for you. And that was wise and true and hard to hear. So to become optimistic and alter the way we think about life, we need to take responsibility for our viewpoint and our choices. So we're going to play with all our heart, live with all our life, and love with all your being. And one person who teaches me more than anyone else in my whole life is my daughter Elise out there. So to maintain optimism, choose to look at all that is good, keep that in mind, and don't get stuck staring at the bad. All right, so we glance at the bad, and we stare at the good. We tend to do the opposite. I'm staring at the bad, and I'm taking a quick glance at the good and dismissing it. Right? Right or not?
Yes. Right. I was just going to bring up distress tolerance. This is kind of, I've run into this with a couple of people in the last several weeks, where I can tell that internally they're struggling to dissipate that distress.
Uh-huh.
And so what you're hitting on here just kind of reminded me about that.
Yes.
How we go about dealing with when we're distressed, or how to lessen that and keep going.
Yeah, and one of the ways we're going to do that is mindfulness, but also let me teach you something magical I just learned. I don't know how they didn't teach this in school, any school, and none of 35 clinicians knew about this little trick, interpersonal effectiveness. And I'm running out of this Halloween marker. One of the quickest ways to stave off distress, anxiety, panic, I'm calling it FBI because virgins is the technical word, and that's harder for me to remember. But if I say FBI, and I meaning I, then I can remember to tell people, you're going to look at your finger really close to you. Go ahead and put your fingers up, 2 fingers, close to your eye. And then you're going to find the back wall. And so you're going to look finger, back, finger, back, finger back as quickly as you can, and I want you to notice the movement of your eye muscles. Can you feel them contracting and expanding, contracting and expanding?
Mm-hmm.
As you do that, your ocular system is informing your limbic system, deactivate. I don't need you. There's no danger, there's no threat.
Repeat that one more time.
Which part?
That last part. The limbic.
As you do this, your ocular system, which is directly connected with your limbic system, is informing your limbic system. There's no threat. You don't need to feel fear. Do not activate. Stand down.
So it's a hack in a way.
It's a hack.
What was that other hack about? Something about, it wasn't chewing gum, it was sour or something.
Oh, yeah. When I did the training with the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, all of the therapists that we did a tour had toxic waste candy in their offices. And I'm like, what's the deal with the toxic waste in our nation's capital? What's happening here? And so I said to one of the therapists, I noticed that everyone has a container of toxic waste. She goes, oh yeah, when you highly sour, and it is, deactivates the limbic system. It causes a shift, causes a brain shift from what I'm thinking about to I'm not. So, yeah.
So it's kind of like a disruptor in a way.
It's a disruptor, yeah.
Okay.
And so I had toxic waste in my office for a really long period of time. But then I ate it myself. And I was way too distracted. I'll drink to that. You guys don't want me to have wine at any future events. So we remember that all things work together for good and that in the world we are going to have some difficulties, right? We even have difficulties dealing with one person, much less an entire global population, right? No one escapes it. No one escapes it. But we choose hope instead of despair. And George Washington said, even without teeth, the greatest part of our happiness or misery depends on our disposition, not our circumstances. Without forgiveness, gratitude, forgiveness, they kind of fall in the same category. Without forgiveness, you'll be stuck in the past. You won't be able to be in the present. So we got to let go of the wrongs done to us to protect ourselves from anger, resentment, and bitterness, and this shutdown, because those also activate this. I don't feel safe when I'm in a place of unforgiveness, when I'm in a place of bitterness, resentment. The stress associated with holding on to hostility was shown to weaken the immune system also and increase the risk for heart disease, heart attack. So forgiveness. Now, we could talk a ton about forgiveness, and in Total Transformation, my class that, by the way, starting again June 1 at South Hall Church, I talk a lot about it being the process of forgiveness. And what does it look like? And it doesn't mean forgetting, right? Because if I forget, I can't keep myself safe. But it is a decision, a choice, and a process, and it will move gradually sometimes. Now, sometimes people miraculously can forgive. And by the way, at AuthenticHappiness.org, they have a forgiveness assessment that shows what is your propensity towards forgiving, easily, or is it hard for you? With some suggestions on how to do that more effectively. Who can think right now of someone, it's hard for me to forgive this person. Yeah, come on. If we're honest, there's almost always something going on where, yeah, that person did me dirty. Or I can't get over that. Or why? The biggest question that comes up in therapy is, why did they do that? How could they do that? What follows? I would never do that. And therein lies another rub, because when I go to the I would never do that, then I can't fathom why someone else would. And that distance between those two, they did, they have, and still the truth is, so I hold together that polarity that I would never, and they did. The holding together of two truths at the same time is a very important strategy. And Mary Carroll brought up distress tolerance, so I put the other dialectical behavioral therapy components, our pillars, Marsha Linehan called them. So distress tolerance, affect regulation, mindfulness, and interpersonal effectiveness. And she said, and we know, we have to learn to hold together two things at the same time. Mm-hmm. This is hard, and I can do it. This is unfair, I'm going to get through it. My mom's mean. She also taught me some important things. When I stick on one side, I make them the villain and me the hero, or I can become the villain and someone else is the hero. And that's what happens with borderline personality disorder. And that's why this treatment, dialectical behavioral therapy for borderline clients, brings together and teaches how to hold those two things together at the same time.
Putting someone on a pedestal and knocking them off. That's the first thing that comes to mind on BPD.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's not in our notes, though, what you just said.
No, it's not.
You used to the disappointment.
Say it one more time, Mom, that was really good, I needed that.
Could you repeat that?
Okay.
Do you remember what?
Bringing the two polarities together so that I'm not the hero or the villain and someone else is not the hero or the villain. Yeah. Because this keeps us stuck. Having to be right or feeling wrong or making the other person wrong or them having to be right. Right. So I'm either shaming myself, like the shame on me part, when I'm the bad guy, or they're the bad guy and I'm the innocent victim. And that can lead to learned helplessness. I'm not sure if that's exactly what I said before, but you know, I'm going to be 70 this year.
Woo-hoo!
I say that because I truly wish I would have known this stuff half my lifetime ago. And maybe there's no other way to get here.
Well, you know what?
What?
Let's just hoop over to you got good genes, girl.
Okay,
So,
I'll drink to that.
and I also want you to know this.
Uh-oh.
So your DD is not determined by thee. Your death date is not
I'm like,
determined
who's
to
my
you.
designated driver?
Yeah.
Thank you.
It's your designated driver of your life.
I know. I'm just saying it's a big number, but I'll drink to that with this one.
I think that you're gonna have a long life.
We shall see. I'll finish what I'm set out to do. That's what I know, but I'm just saying I'm struggling, so we might have to have a party for me again this year. Okay, or we might have to just forget about it altogether.
No, you are worthy of celebration. We need to
All right.
celebrate more things in life.
Holding on to grudges and hurts sickens the heart, shrivels the soul, and eventually brings physical suffering to the body. I don't know who wrote that, but I liked it and I put it in there. I don't have the be grateful for what you already have video right now, but we do know that gratitude changes brain chemistry, creating those new neural pathways. I can't stay there when I go over here. So here's the winning formula here. I'm going to look for the good in situations, in people, in me. I'm going to learn to forgive and not dwell on the past. I'm going to take responsibility for me. So it's not what happens to us, it's how we look at it. Our attitude is what matters most. We can't change the past. We can't change the fact that people will act a certain way. We can't change the inevitable. The only thing we can do is play the string we have, the one string we have, and that's our attitude. And Pastor Chuck Swindoll, who I love, says, I'm convinced that life is 10% what happens to me and 90% how I react to it. Again, I am not minimizing hard things, pain, loss, difficulty. I met with a client yesterday who has a lifetime of drug-induced sexual exploitation at age 8, sexual molestation at age 12, bullying from 12 to 14, loss of mom at 17, and he's an asylum case coming here to try to stay. And the way the political situation is now, he's risking being sent back, where he's not at all accepted, and he is considering himself same-sex attracted at this point, but we think/believe, I do, that this was taught. And I cannot tell you what a charming, joyful person he was. and how if that were me, I don't know how I would respond. So I'm working dang hard to write him a really good psychological evaluation because he needs to be here. He has nothing there, and he's not safe there.
Where's he from?
Honduras.
What's his name?
Jose. All right, so things turn out best for the people who make the best of the way things turn out. This is John Wooden, famous coach from UCLA, right? UCLA or USC? I can't remember which one. I do know I talked to him at one point when I was looking for a sponsor when I was in advertising, and he turned me down. So did Tommy Lasorda. So I had to resort to a Jim Carrey lookalike, which worked out okay. But all right, so we're going to do self-talk. We're going to watch how we talk to ourselves. We're going to do attention shifting, thought stopping, all the things we've talked about in terms of cognitive behavioral strategies. How about putting a problem on hold? I'm going to put that over there. I'm going to box that up. That container exercise that's on school.com/shrinkwrap or on YouTube. What's the name of it, Coco? Thought stopping. Bothersome Thoughts. The Bothersome Thoughts podcast walks you through that container exercise on YouTube under the Shrink Wrap Show. Yeah.
Intrusive thoughts, is that, or no?
Bothersome Thoughts podcast.
Okay.
Yeah, on YouTube. Okay, this is really handy. I feel like a doctor a little bit. So let's see. Putting the problems on hold, boxing them up, etc. Writing a letter. Writing my thoughts down, writing a letter to myself, to God, to another person, to an issue, like a total truth letter that I've given you in packets in the past. One of the other things I tell a lot of my clients to do, particularly if it's something really, really infiltrating their life and impacting it badly, is to write a breakup letter. So write a breakup letter to Ed, eating disorder, to that eating disorder. I have got to break up with you. You are not good to me. You're not faithful. You're not right. So writing a breakup letter, write a breakup letter to a negative thought. Write a breakup letter to unforgiveness. Okay. All right. I don't know that we have much to talk about in the way of nutrition, and I will follow up next time with a whole gut health, microbiome, mind-body, brain-gut connection, all that I learned from that training I did in Massachusetts from a nutraceutical expert. But listen, we eat, we have to eat, but this person that I can't pronounce their last name, but it looks like blue cheese, says to eat is a necessity, but to eat intelligently in art form. We know that we are what we eat, and from the Blue Zone research and from all of the wellness research from positive psychology and elsewhere, we know that what we put in is critical and changes a whole bunch of things. Blue Zone information, we've talked about that a lot. There's much more information about that. Just some information in here on the Mellis family that we already talked about. Sadly, over half of us in this country are overweight. And they call it morbid obesity, which is such a bunch of words. Tough to palate, morbid. The average American diet sucks. Like, I'm just going to put that in that simple term. And so just making tiny bite-sized changes, one at a time, whenever I can. And I know sometimes I'm not helpful with you guys because I bring in the Costco pizza and we do the other things that aren't healthy. So we're just hoping Kelly will continue.
Yeah, that'd be great.
All right, lots of things you guys can read here for yourself. Plant-based, and the lots of research on the following the 80-20 rule, right? Because we live here, we're here. I'm going to a wedding this weekend in California. And if I'm following the 80-20 rule, it means that I'm going to have the wedding cake. And I'm going to have the stuff they have. But I'm going to try to monitor myself. I said try. I'm going to monitor my intake and use some self-control. But I'm allowing myself to go off plan, right? Because it's not a diet. It's a lifestyle. It's a every day for the rest of my life thing. But with that 80-20, I will tend to not do that yo-yoing. Yeah, reducing caloric intake, eating healthy. So we'll talk more about this next time, but lots of variety is helpful. Lots of color, lots of textures, Elisa's taught me a lot about this. She's always about, I need some crunch in that, Mom. I need some this in that. And that will keep us interested in cleaner food. So you notice what Kelly brought. We've got some crunch with those sunflower seeds I saw back there. We got that tasty juxtaposition with more sweet and a little bitter with the olives. And all of those things are, that my palate likes that. We also can learn to eat differently, can't we? Mm-hmm. Right? So and my body can learn to not want the process, the sugar, the fast, all of those things, and actually be disgusted by them once I'm getting into different eating. Water is the only drink of a wise man, Henry David Thoreau. And so making water my go-to more often than any other beverage. Again, this can be hard if you're into Coke or not that one. So when you eat or drink or do anything else, do it to honor God. Remember that your body's a temple. All right, so we're going to maximize the grains, the fruits, the veggies, the legumes, the nuts. We're going to have variety. We're going to do color. We're going to do moderation. We're going to limit how much we eat. Again, we're going to eat. The Blue Zone research says eat until you're 80% full. Not until you're, right? And so some of us got those messages that clean up everything on your plate, but someone else served us. So did they know how much I was going to be able to clean up? And I learned from that, it's bad, you'll get in trouble, it's wrong, people in China are starving. Actually, they're not, okay? But we thought they were. So this is how this happened.
I was just going to share something about that from PCS. So when I met with one of the therapists there, we talked about eating, that wasn't really my presenting symptom, but she said, okay, you can either, you don't have to subscribe to the Clean Plate Club. She said you can either waste it in your body or you can waste it in the trash. It's not going to poor children or whatever. And I thought, okay, great, I'm off the hook now. I don't have any guilt and shame about it.
So I'm not going to be part of the Clean the Plate Club.
Yeah.
I'm deciding to be part of the...
And she said, we looked at it. 1 is you're absolutely starving, you're going to eat your left arm. And 10 is I'm so stuffed I can't even move or breathe. And she said, if you can keep it between a 3, a 4, and a 7. And I always go back to that because I'm like, okay, I'm starting to get hungry. And if I keep waiting, I'm going to be at a 1. And then it's just all bets are off, And I try and remember what she said about that, keeping it in that
range.
Yeah.
So simple. That's very wise. Easy
Like
to
3
hang on
or
to
4
that.
to a 7.
Yeah,
5
I like
is
that.
kind of your, like
Breaking-
maybe I should probably eat a little something. And I think that's why, some of these diets, and of course she told me she doesn't use the word diet. And I said I would love to not use that word. It's nutrition or nourishment or whatever. But
Because that kind of brings up the I'm on or I'm off. I'm on one or I'm off one. And Courtney, who of you remember Courtney when she would come?
yeah.
Courtney would come and say, no. This is about your relationship with food. Food is your friend. It's not your enemy. But you have to decide what kind of relationship you'll have with it. And I know some of you struggle with some food issues that you have to be careful, and you have to find more creative ways of making eating interesting or making life, palatable. I'll just stick with the food words here.
Can I say something real quick to
Yeah,
that?
please.
A cool farmer friend that I know, he said, when your hands are in the dirt all the time, you realize that food is sacred. And once you developing a sacred relationship with food, changes everything. Because you don't find sacred in a box necessarily or in a package.
Oh, that's beautiful. Yeah.
I thought it was really beautiful.
So good.
It's that it's the relationship that's so much deeper, and that it's food is sacred. And our Creator gave it to us.
I love that. Yeah, that's so good.
And I'd like to share a resource. We have farmer's market. I don't always wake up early enough to get to Franklin's by noon with my family. But there's one in Spring Hill called Hidden Gem, and they have 10 spots left to their CSA, which is,
So hidden gem,
yeah.
like this?
Yeah. And they
Okay.
have quite a list of things, so you get bags full of stuff for like $30 a week. So it's very affordable, no spray.
So
farm.
good.
And they'll partner with other farmers if you say, I'm really looking for this. He really cares about people. And I said, things that are hard to find. And he found a way to bring it in. Not always cheap, but he has great vendors that will come.
So if you guys are out that way, hidden gem.
It's on Saturday.
Is it hidden gem?
It started about 4 years ago. We started
It's from 11 to 2, I want to say, on Saturdays. And every once in a while on Facebook, he'll announce a pop-up. Like, I have strawberries today. And I have, and he's a very nice person.
So we want to support him too.
Yes,
Yeah.
because he cares about the community.
And when I think about that and I think about the Mellis family, it's not just the content of what they're preparing, it's that this is a communal thing that we share, and this has been a generational thing. Right? They're coming together and it's sort of like taking communion every day, right? We do this together. We always do it the same. And we're communing.
And speaking of that, he actually planned an event that tonight for a crawfish boil with music and just to bring community together. So if that sounds like something fun for people to do.
So how do they find out info about that? Just go
on
to your
Facebook
Yeah.
at Hidden Gem Farm.
Facebook Hidden Gem Crawfish.
And if you're gonna go, to
I'm
Turkey
just
Spring
cutting to
Hill,
the chase.
come on down to Columbia because we have an excellent farmers. There's a lot of homesteaders in Oregon County. So we
Okay,
have,
Columbia's got things going on too. There
They
you go.
usually have it 3 days a week. I think it's on Saturdays with and I think, but if you Google it, it's probably gonna come up.
Just Columbia Farmers Market.
Yeah, TN, Columbia TN.
One of the things that Courtney used to teach us as well, if you remember our painstaking eating of the dark chocolate, where we had to think about where it came from and what it looked like, how it felt in our hand, how it smelled. Then we brought it closer. Then we put it in our mouth but didn't do anything else for a long time. As a mindfulness eating practice, because we often just shovel.
I will
And
say,
we don't notice we don't notice when we're full, and we don't notice the various textures, the various tastes, the various flavors at all, because it's all sort of merging together.
I need you
My-
to do this with the wedding cake.
I'm gonna do that.
my husband and I have been doing carnivore or keto since September, and one of the things that we do